everyone, and welcome back to Amateur Endeavors, where we live life for the love of it. My name is Alora, and today we're going to do something of a repair job, but make it whimsical. So, due to a recent change in dress code, if you know, you know, I can no longer wear these high-top sneakers to work. I actually went searching for these. I was obsessed with high tops at the time, still sort of am. And I wanted a pair of food grade high top tennis shoes to wear to work. These have non-slip bottoms, they have memory foam soles, they are water resistant but not waterproof. But due to the change in dress code, we cannot wear anything with fabric on our feet. So, even though these are water resistant and have a layer of rubber in between them, they are still made of canvas. So needless to say, I can't wear them at work. But they still have a lot of life in them. Even though I have sort of worn them down pretty well. So they are work shoes, so they've gotten some wear and tear, they've gotten a couple of holes in them, they're a little worn out. But I think I can work with that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use embroidery to mend the holes. And then we're going to add a little extra to give it a little extra. I think it's going to be really cool. I've done a set of shoes with embroidery before. I've done it once, and so I'm going to be using some skills I've already learned. But it's going to be kind of interesting to use embroidery. I've seen it done before where you use embroidery to cover and mend things. And I think it's just going to be really neat to try and work that on shoes. I think it's going to be really neat and really fun, and I hope you will join me along for the journey. Let's go!
Alright, so the first thing that we need to take care of is this big old hole on the back of the heel. And I'm going to use a pretty thick needle, and I'm going to use this green thread to kind of cover it up. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start along the bottom, and I'm just going to make a whole bunch of threads connecting the sole back to the rest of the canvas. It's like it pulled away because I used the heel of my shoe to pull off my shoes at the end of the day, and it just kind of separated and got a little worn out. So we're just going to go back over it with a couple of straight stitches, and then I'm also going to go back and I'm going to do these sort of longer, taller stitches, and this is going to be the base for our embroidery bit. So we've done the repair portion of it, and now we need to make it look pretty. And so these are going to be just taller sections I'm going to take across the whole thing, and we're going to just put them in and blend them together with our straight repair stitches. Alright, now that I have those straight stitches across, I'm going to take my thread and essentially make these little like V shapes along the long lines that we just stitched on. And this is just going to turn our straight stitches into trees. It's just a back and forth of going out and then in towards the center and making these little V shapes all the way across, and now we have a couple of trees along our heel instead of hole. Now this is the inside of the shoe, so the only other thing I'm really going to do is I'm going to do a 8-pointed star on this side, and that's just going to be doing a bunch of straight lines, vertical, horizontal, and then on diagonals. And so that's going to be a really simple process. we have the inside of our shoe finished, now we're going to work on the outside. And I have considerable less damage on the outside part of the shoe, so we're going to use this to mostly make it pretty. And I'm just kind of drawing out my basic design. I'm going to do a bit of a mountain scene on this side, and I'm going to also add a moon up over top of it so I can have a sort of nighttime scene along the side of it. And I'm also just drawing lines along the center of it to add some more details to my mountains. Now that I have everything drawn out, I'm just going to take a light gray thread, just my basic embroidery thread, and I'm going to start doing a back stitch along all of the mountain lines. This is going to be along the actual peaks, but also those lines down the middle that I drew. It's just going to give us a base that we can work off of and really outline the whole thing very vividly. The light gray really stands out against the black, and so I really like that. Next up, I'm just going to be adding these diagonal lines along the right side of my peaks, and this is just going to give a little bit more dimension, so that way it's not just, a bunch of flat lines. It gives it a little bit more visual interest, and you just kind of come from that center line down to the bottom edge, and that gets you a nice visual. I'm also going to be adding some trees, and I'm going to really kind of keeping it basic here. I didn't want to take too much time. But essentially I'm just making a whole bunch of horizontal lines stacked on top of each other into a triangle, and that's just going to give me my trees. So I'm doing this in some bit of a lighter green on this side, and then I'm going to do some darker green as well in between, but just to give myself a little bit of color on this. Alright, now that my mountain scene is pretty well fleshed out and I have all my mountains and trees on there, the last thing I want to add is my little moonscape. So I'm actually going to use a quarter so I can have a nice round circle. I cannot draw a circle on my own, it just does not work. So I'm going to be tracing this out using just a white pencil so it really shows up, and then I'm going to go around the edge of it with a almost white fabric. It's like a light silver. I'm going to just do a back stitch all the way around. Now that I've got my back stitch in place, I'm just going to kind of go through with longer stitches and fill it in. I'm not going to keep it very clean, very pretty. I'm actually going to leave some holes in it so I can go in with a darker color just to make sure, just to kind of give it that rough sort of moon coloring. And the moon is not one consistent color. It has divots and craters, and so I just kind of want to represent that a little bit with a little bit more color and a little bit more variation. Once the moon was completed, the only thing I added after that was a couple of stars using a French knot. Unfortunately, was not able to record that, but now I think my shoes are complete.
Okay, so come as no surprise, I love these shoes. They turned out really, really nice. I really, really liked them. It took a little bit longer than I expected. Total runtime for making these was around about 6 hours. So, 6 hours into what's probably now a 10-15 minute video. Hilarious. But I really enjoyed it. I really like how it turned out. It gave some new life to these shoes. I'm actually gonna wear them. They actually look nice again. I've got a couple of outfits I want to pair with them. But I think they turned out really, really neat. And it's just like, look at us. Wouldn't that be great to just walk around town wearing some embroidered shoes? Just love them. But that does it for this video. It really was just I know I said it took 6 hours, and it did, but it was just a short and sweet video. I knew I wasn't going to have a whole lot of film that I could actually present as, entertaining, but I hope you learned something. I hope you realize that you could take something old and give it a little bit of a dress up with some thread and some embroidery and make it like new again. Hope that you realize that not everything that is worn out in your closet is done for. Because these seemed like they were done for. They had holes in them, they were worn out, but now, good as new. And I think that's about the last time that I can get my shoe into frame. But in any case, thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll join me for some other videos. I got some more coming up soon. And until then, live a life full of love. See ya.